Okay, hi everybody. It's been 4 days since we did our last food grinding and checked on this. The rain, you know. But this is interesting because on the 18th day, going back, I guess, roughly 15 days since we put our last batch of food into here, the one that was not inoculated is beginning to look like, well, you know, but it doesn't smell like it. So, you know, your teeth grind up food, and that food all ground up goes in your stomach, and it comes out the other end looking brown like this, but that has a stinky smell. This smell, if I get near it, and I've got my baby on board. Oh, he's got in the wrap, so I gotta be careful reaching down here. If I could go down here and smell, no, really, not much of anything at all. Nope, I can't say that there's anything objectionable there. So it may look like SHI, you know what, but it sure don't smell like it. It's perfectly fine, but it's taking a long time to turn into soil. Whereas the stuff that we put on the soil has, of course, turned into soil, and did that after the first 3 days. So we're going to keep this going here, but we're still grinding food as we have been into the bucket. Let's see how the bucket experiment is working out. There's today's food waste to be ground. There's the bucket, and this has been sitting, some of it for the last 4 days, some of it for the last week or so, as we pile up the bucket. And again, no smell. So, and the stuff that went into the soil has turned into soil. So that's real good. So let's go ahead and grind. And there goes paper towels and stuff. Oh, but my avocado pits, I definitely want to save in the hope that I can germinate a couple of them. So let's get the avocado. We eat a lot of avocados, so there's that. This thing here, I'm just going to toss in the garden, because no point in grinding that up. All right, so avocado pits in my avocado pits folder, and the rest of it is ground up. Ready for that. Oh no, and we have a jam. Hold on a second while I turn off the incinerator. Sorry about that, and I unjam the jam. I put stuff down too quickly, and that's not to be done. All right, let's get that incinerator going again for the blackout. There we go. So this is 4 days of food waste. And since we need to see what's happening here, we're going to spill over again. But we're not concerned because we know that the spillover just turns into soil, which is lovely. That's lovely stuff. There's some pepperoni just went in there. And there's a lot of pepperoni. So yeah, we do have carnivorous material going down in here. Oh, grinder's still working? Yeah, it is. Oh, and look at how it's overflowing. And do be careful. So you know what? You don't need a bucket. You can just let this spill on the ground, which we've been doing for 2 years. But I do want to fill this bucket and then put it aside, because I want to show that if you did it in the bucket, it wouldn't be offensive. It wouldn't smell. So, yeah, the bucket is really overflowing there. More pepperoni. There's pepperoni there. So, yeah. I love the rambutan. Tea bag goes in, and we're pretty much getting there now. So, the overspill is extreme today. Pretty soon we're going to have to replace this bucket. But as I mentioned, no worries at all, because it won't smell. And there's the part that was 18 days ago. We started pouring food waste in there, and after 3 or 4 days we just stopped to see what would happen. That's 18 days old. And that is also 18 days old, but this had soil first. So when you put your food waste onto soil, once again to reiterate, it turns back into soil in 3 to 6 days when it's ground up, and that is confirmed here. When you don't put it onto soil with no inoculation, well, it stays ground up food waste and slowly begins to darken. Now it's a rich brown color. As I said, it looks like SHI, you know what, but it doesn't smell like it. So grinding up food does turn into soil. without any inoculant, but it takes time. But no, there's no flies, there's no roaches, there's no rats, there's no feral cats, there's no feral dogs, there's no other so-called vermin having any interest in it. We see no paw prints whatsoever, and we see no activity, no flies, nothing. And of course the soil just becomes soil. So we're really confident now after 18 days that grinding is the way to go. But you should grind and put it right in the garden, obviously. When you grind into a bucket, it doesn't smell, and this is some of it's 4 days old, some of it's 7 days old, some 9, 10 days old. We're filling this bucket up, and as you can see, because the water overflows now that the bucket's getting full, it spills out onto the soil. But in 3 days' time, that's going to be soil again because it is on soil, so it's inoculated. And so there's that. That's a great fun. And then, of course, if you come out to the garden that Bernard, one of our students, has done, where he's taking the ground up food waste and just broadcasting it onto the land. He's got a really good bean crop growing now, and it's on this sand that has no nutritional value, but he just puts the food waste and just spreads it down here, and it turns into soil within days. And so he's getting good growth, and there's some flowering going on over there, and that's with no fertilizer at all. Over here he did put commercial fertilizer, and it's not doing so well. Interesting. But of course it's not conclusive, but that's anecdotally interesting that where he put the chemical fertilizer, you have stunted beans, and where he just took food waste and ground it up, no compost, just food waste, and ground it up and just spread it on the ground. And you can see some of it down here, but it's turned into soil so quickly. He's having good growth. So we'll continue these experiments, but we do want to let you know that your food grinder or garbage disposal or incinerator, whatever you want to call it, is your compost companion. It's your best friend. It's worth the energy and the money invested and the time invested, because then you don't need a compost bin if you don't have one. Now, there's no reason you shouldn't get a compost bin, because then you'll keep it warm all winter. If you're in a cold climate, it's a thermophilic process. So I did in Germany, I did this. I put the grinder out by the insulated compost bin that I'd built and just kept grinding all winter long. And while it froze outside, the compost bin, let me just rub this camera. The compost bin worked all winter long despite the snow and ice outside, because it generated its own heat. And then you could put stuff that wasn't ground up as well. Ground up stuff made it heat that much faster. And of course for the biodigester, it's fantastic. You grind, you put your stuff in the biodigester, and we'll be cooking on the biogas stove tonight because we got plenty of gas over there, because it turns into gas and liquid fertilizer in 24 hours when you're using the biodigester. But this experiment, I'm loving the fact that we just grind and don't worry about it. Meat, fat, grease, it all goes in there, and there's no vermin, no smells. So we'll continue reporting in every time that we grind, and hope that you'll join us and put your comments in and subscribe and just verify for us as citizen scientists that this whole problem of food waste can be eliminated thanks to the daily grind.